Hello everyone, my name is Lucio Constantine, and I'm doing more videos to prep for a debate that is on Tuesday. It is a group debate for Intro to Human Communication class. It is about investing and financing, but today's topic is about Thomas Ligotti's My Work Is Not Yet Done. This collection of short stories features the weird and uncanny horror stories of Thomas Ligotti, born in Detroit, Michigan in 1953. He's an American horror writer in the wiki page. His writings are rooted in, quote, several literary genres, most prominently weird fiction, and have been described by critics as works of philosophical horror and novellas in the tradition of Gothic fiction. His worldview is described as pessimistic and nihilistic. This collection of stories centers around what's called office horror, where I know most of you who work in the office could experience the same feelings as described in the book, which is known as office horror, where the main horror of the book is not what spectacular monsters from Lovecraft, grand and grandiose themes of space monsters attacking humans or humans exploring space and finding monsters. It is about the workplace and how horrifying it can be in an existential sense and nihilistic sense. We have several chapters, all with the same sounding names, which is meant to emphasize the mundaneness and typicality of the experience of working in the office. There is Sherry, who is the attractive female in the office setting of the book, who the main character spies on with a broken mirror and gets caught for doing so by looking at her back. There's Harry, there's Perry. Perry is the jazz pianist who plays jazz piano and music from the 50s on the piano in the office. There's Harry and there's Larry. One of them is well built and is a gym fitness buff. And then there's several other characters. What happens is Richard is the main antagonist of the story, where Richard has 3 suicides under his care during the time he worked as a boss for the main character, who is called Frank Dominion, Dominion, and the reasons they all killed themselves was because of Frank's doing, and one of them committed suicide in his office, and the other one sent a letter. Eventually, the main character grows resentful and bitter over her indignation or bitterness of a wrong expressed from Richard, who dismisses his work to be submitted, which becomes from my work is not yet done to my work is done, which he sends throughout the office. Frank acquires goes mentally ill and acquires a weapon from a gun store and pretends to know what he's doing with the weapons and plans to kill Richard and everyone in the office because he's tired of all their shenanigans, if you will. And there are 2 detectives who I forgot their names who investigate Frank Dominion, who puts pictures of disturbing things in his office, which he gets caught for, but he is not attending at his desk. So, a little bit about the book. It is very flowery writing, and and if you like Faulkner and the stream of conscious writers, then you'll enjoy it as well. The book was published June 1st, 2002, and has a 4-star rating on Goodreads, not Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes is a movie sites that's not that good. Anyways, you shouldn't be going on there. Just as much as good and valuable as letterbox reviews, which is equally awful and morally degrading experience. If you ever go on there, it's just a bunch of people posting memes and joke reviews. They're not real critics. They're not real critics. Anyhow, that's a tangent. The book is very flowery. I'll give examples as to what I mean. Here's an example. Quote, "This is the paradox of always being afraid. When the pangs of apprehension and self-consciousness may allow you to imagine yourself as a being created of finer material than most, a certain level of such agony necessarily drives you for the reassurances of the approval of swine, or dwarfs if you like, who function as the conductors of a fear from which they themselves do not appear to suffer, and how well they're able to control this fear, turn it in your direction at will, and causing its dreadful current to flow just long enough to send you running to them, so that you may be allowed to make a case for your own swinehood, hoping to prove that you are an even bigger swine or a smaller dwarf than they. This is the only thing that can bring some relief from that most pernicious form of being afraid, the anxiety of provoked by other people and what they may do to you, either collectively or as individual agents." End quote. Page 15. So that was a lengthy quote. In this quote, the author or the character espouses methods of being afraid, and in a quote by Soren Kierkegaard, author of The Concept of Anxiety, Either or The Sickness Unto Death, said that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom, and when you're afraid, you don't expect it to ever end and to be a perpetual state of fight or flight. And sometimes people undergo a shortness of breath or the stoppaging of breath, which happens due to hyperventilation and the body shutting down due to overstress. Here's another quote. Quote, "Soon enough, though, the others arrived and took their places, sitting down upon the already scarred finish of the table of their outside mugs or coffee, of towering containers of bottled water. I never failed to wonder how they were able to consume such incredible quantities of coffee, water, fruit juice, and what have you, during these meetings, which always went on for at least an hour. I myself made a point of not taking in unaccustomed amounts of liquor prior to these weekly convocations, just so that I might avoid the necessity of disrupting the proceedings by bursting out of the room in search of the nearest lavatory." End quote. Page 17. Basically, this quote is an explanation of anti-consumerism, which is seen in the movie They Live or Mr. Robot with Rami Malek and Christian Slater, directed by Sam Esmail, and Fight Club, directed by David Fincher, written by Jack Palahniuk. Basically, anti-consumerism is that modern age working class people are overly indulging themselves in consumption and intake of material wealth to boost their self identity and to conflate their ego to what they own rather than to what, as is said in Cicero's On the Good Life, as what the friends they have as compared to the stuff they own. There is a philosophy in Fight Club where it says, "You are not your job, you're not your khakis, you're not the content of your wallet, you're the all singing, all dancing crap of the world." Is a bit nihilistic, and Tyler Durden is a self-contradictory nature in literature, for he does not believe in government or authority, yet rules authority over his minions in his press, in his presidents for Project Mayhem. This was a Jordan Peterson analysis of the movie. Here's another quote, there are some people who attest that they do not remember their dreams, who have never known what it is like to awake screaming or half insane or merely trembling from the aftershock of a nightmare. There are not necessarily simple-minded persons or happy persons or persons of stunted imaginations, but somehow they have retained a lifelong innocence, never knowing the dread some feel upon approaching the bedroom and facing that descent into the darkness of unknown roles that may range from the cartoonish absurdity to quaking horror. They are very lucky people. I wish I were one of them. End quote. Page 46. What this quote means is an exploration of dreams. For further inquiry, Freud and Jung wrote about dreams extensively in their discussions and books over psychology from the mid 1900s. Basically, dreams are methods of dealing with anxiety or fear that is not yet solved or come to a resolution of in the waking life, and dreams have a precedence over our active waking life as much as they do in our non-active unconscious states. When nightmares are tools for investigation over what we fear in real life and what is bothering us in real life existence. Quote, so why did I stand for such treatment? Why didn't I leave the company? Why didn't I do any of the dozen things that I had contemplated doing for many years? End quote. Page 61. People don't leave bad relationships that are not good for them because they are afraid. They are afraid, but not of the reasons you expect. In my class notes, this is known as comparison level alt, where where what you expect, what you deserve to get, you can expect to get somewhere else. People don't leave relationships because they don't know other alternatives, or they don't have other methods of dealing with the fallout of leaving the relationship, where they have self-identified with the other as compared to themselves as a person. Here's another quote. And at that moment, I was sure that I was still alive in some way, that even if I was not entirely alive, neither was I wholly dead. Somehow, I was caught in between these two worlds, caught in a place where I had made a real connection with the great black swine and trashing and vicious blackness which flowed like a river through every living thing and possibly in the spaces around everything that lived, allowing me to be wherever blackness flowed, to become one with the agitated force that was everything and inside everything that moved and manipulated things according to my will, which was nevertheless only the lower case will of an isolated being, a cockroach elevated to human form, a small swirling of that flowing blackness that was as great and enduring as the world itself. That was the secret fate of the living world, the shadow within all life, the thing that would live on in, as each one of us died our deaths alone. Because whatever life we have was only its life, and when our cockroach bodies, became too damaged to accommodate it, the blackness flowed away, leaving behind its dead vine, a bug's crushed carapace, or a human corpse, things that had no life of their own, nothing real at all about them. Thomas Ligotti wrote a philosophical work about antinatalism, or about how it's better to not have been born, in which he says humans are puppets made of strings, programmed with the belief that they are not puppets, that they're making a go of it on their own, as they are and how it is not worthwhile to be alive in general. That is all for today. Thank you for watching. I appreciate everyone and last one of you, and I hope you have a happy Christmas and your Thanksgiving was well as well. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye. Signing off.